exec, el exec. El Vélez, el Vélez, el Vélez. El fenómeno que todos quieren ser. El chamaquito que no pueden entender.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to episode 111 of the Exec Talk podcast. I am your host, El Velez. Gonna be a pretty, probably like an hour around there. We're gonna talk finals. We're gonna talk Justin Jefferson. We're gonna talk Real Madrid. There it is, Real Madrid. You know, got their 15th Champions League title. More than double of any other club in Europe. We're going to talk about a little bit on NASCAR, a little bit IndyCar, a little baseball, and then we're going to get out of here. But first of all, let's start with the finals, as in I'm going to set it up, okay? So Luka in game five, decides to go nuclear in the first quarter, drops 20, and essentially after the first quarter, game was over. They got up by as much as 36. Cat didn't help. Ant tried to do his best, but once you give up a 20-point lead in the first half, like, you know, in the first quarter, and you're trying to catch up, and PJ Washington sinking threes, and Derrick Jones Jr., you know, you're not hitting anything. Nas Reed struggled. Nikhil Alexander-Walker struggled. Ant struggled a little bit. Cat struggled. Rudy Gobert got 13 touches in the first half, in the first quarter, more than any in his career. That's called playing into somebody's bad tendency and what they want you to do. And the Timberwolves, just time and time again in the first quarter, just the ball found itself in Rudy's hands with less than 10 seconds on the shot clock. That's not how you win. Rudy Gobert should not be the one handling the ball in a first quarter when Luka's going off of Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals at home, when you're trying to save your season. It just doesn't work that way. They played defense as best as they could, but, you know, the Mavs eventually, you know, first quarter was Luka's, first half really, and then Kyrie took over the second half. They both dropped 36, broke a bunch of records. Luka's the first guy ever to lead the playoffs in points, assists, and rebounds through the conference finals. And yeah, it's not, I'm not going to say it's unfortunate for the Timberwolves. They had a great season. They definitely overachieved. But at the same time, you know, with a team, how you had it, people thought, and I thought, that they would go deeper. A lot of people had them in the finals. A lot of people had them winning the championship, including myself. But, you know, what did we learn about these Western Conference Finals for the finals? We learned that Derek Lively can go 16 for 16 in a series. The most field goals attempted without a miss in playoffs, NBA playoff history, in any playoff series. The only duels in NBA history to both record 30-point games in a game to advance to the final. So basically, not an elimination game, but like, you know, a closeout game. You know, Kobe and Shaq did it in 2002. Kyrie and LeBron did it in 2016. And then Kyrie Irving and Luka did it in 2024. That's the list. So, you know, what I'm saying, you know, playoff leaders, points Luka, rebounds Luka, assists Luka, steals Luka, field goals made Luka, 3-point field goals made Luka, free throws made Luka. That's insane. Okay, that's absolutely insane. Now, like I said, Timberwolves going into next season, I think that they should look for something for Cat. Just look for a difference in personnel, whether you get a mobile four, a powerful four. I think Lauri Markkanen, I don't know if they have the money, if they want to dish it out, if Lauri Markkanen is even available. Okay? I have no idea. But that would be my best fix. I am getting bothered by this hair right here. I don't want to see it. I think the Rudy works, except you have to play him and drop against Luka and Kyrie, and it just doesn't work. Kat played Jokic really well this season, this playoffs. But I don't know what to say about the Kat and Rudy situation. You need to help Anthony Edwards a little bit when it comes to showing up and going in a closeout game, in an elimination game at home, losing the way they did. It was kind of embarrassing. I didn't expect that, considering that the games were so close. But Luka and Kyrie went in there with a purpose to not go back to Dallas. Of course, Luka said after the game that he wanted to see the Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund final for the champion. So he had to finish it. He had to finish it in Game 5. That's on tongue in cheek, of course. But now it buys him some time for Thursday. We don't have basketball here for the next 3 days. So at the beginning of the week. So Thursday is Game 1. Now, on Thursday, I will break down the scope of the series, okay? As in, like, the broader brushstrokes of the series. Today, what we're going to do in a little bit, because we got to talk about some NFL stuff, and then El Clásico and NASCAR and stuff like that. But what we're breaking down today is the individual matchups of the stars and what each person brings to the table for this series and how I expect each player to perform. I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible. You know that I and Tatum do not see eye to eye. Neither do me and the Celtics see eye to eye. So I'm going to be as objective as possible, taking into consideration everything we've seen this postseason, because, they're going to step up from whatever. If they're going to step up, they're going to step up from whatever they've been doing. Okay? Tatum is coming off a great series. So is Jaylen Brown. So is so is Kyrie, and so is Luka. So, But first off, what we're breaking down is El Clásico. I mean, the champions. Now, if I'm being honest, we were tense those first 45 minutes as Real Madrid fans. Not getting the ball, a lot of possession of the ball. Dortmund with Adeyemi and Fulkrug just pushing forward constantly. They had like 3 chances in the first half in order where they could have, marked and gone up 1-0. One went off the post. The other one went off the crossbar. I mean, a great save by Courtois. He came back because Luton was feeling under the weather. But when we got to halftime at 0-0, I believed that Real Madrid's, soccer is one of those sports that talent usually comes to a head. And when you talk about talent, of both teams, I think that the more talented team, of course, and everybody thinks that the more talented team is Real Madrid and was Real Madrid, and that's exactly what I thought as well. I thought Real Madrid had a much better, attacking three. I thought that we, at the end of the day would have a advantage in the midfield with Cruz in his last Real Madrid appearance, as well as Modric if we had to put him in. I thought that we had the better subs, Joselu, Brahim Diaz. Like I believed we had the better subs. And just we had the better squad that had been there before, had done it before, people that had won it before. You know, Cruz 5 times before this one. You know, look like Carvajal, Nacho, you know, Vinny. You know, Bellingham is new to this, but, you know, everybody else has kind of won it. So they've been in the moment. So we get to the second half. And Toni Kroos, we get a corner. One of the few corners we got this game, especially like it was one of the first corners we got. And Toni Kroos puts it right where David Carvajal is running. Free run. People didn't see him. Remember, David Carvajal is the smallest player on the pitch at this point. And he heads it in. Beautiful cross head over the outstretched arm of the keeper for Borussia Dortmund, and 1-0. This was the first time in the whole game that we had been aggressive, pushing forward. The first half was very defensive, very as if like they knew they could get the goal whenever. Not saying that it was that cocky because we didn't have the possession. We had some lapses in defense, especially with Adeyemi against Nacho and Carvajal. They just couldn't keep up with Adeyemi, and anytime he got in an open space, I mean, he had an open space like 2-3 times. Fulkrug had an open hit like 2-3 times. But we stayed in it. You know, Courtois bailed us out. And in the second half, we started kind of picking it up. I guess Ancelotti, Don Carlos, I guess he spurred him up in halftime. Said, "Hey guys, we got to attack more. We're being kind of the game's like this right now. Let's put it more in our favor." We started controlling the ball in the second half. A lot of backwards type of passing, not a lot of forward. I mean, it took a while for us to get deep into the box. And even when we didn't really take shots. I mean, Rodrigo had a wide open shot that he could have taken. He tried to pass it to Bellingham. He missed. So it was just tense. But then Toni Kroos in the corner, Carvajal hits the header. And I'm like, okay, let's breathe. Couple minutes go by, and then the 83rd minute off a turnover. So Dortmund had the ball, kind of like a midfield-ish. Tried to pass it a little bit forward. It got intercepted. Bellingham took off running. And then Vinny came up on his left side. There was just the keeper in front of Vinny. So Vinny, took the ball, and I don't know if he did it on purpose, but if he did, he's a genius. He bounced it off the floor. So he hit it into the floor so it would bounce, and it went over the keeper's left hand, right hand combination to go into the lower 90, and 2-0. And Real Madrid wins the 15th Champions League title. Regains its crown after losing it last year to Manchester City. Toni Kroos, hell of a career. 6 champions. Modric, hell of a career. Another 5 or 6 champions. Don Carlos, champion number 6 or 7 for him. Vinny's been part of one. Nacho as a captain, first one for him as a captain of the Real Madrid squad. So we win on Saturday. And then today it's announced that Mbappe's coming. And I love it. I love it because now it shouldn't just be it should be champions, of course, but it should be a total and complete annihilation of La Liga. I don't think Barcelona has anything for us in the next few years because of Mbappe, Vini, Rodrigo. We still have Brahim Diaz coming off coming as a sub, Jose Lu. Modric is gone, so is Cruz. But, Bellingham, Carvajal is still there, Nacho's still there, Suchimeni, Mendy. So overall, I think our team will be much better. I believe they should run the same type of style that they did with Ronaldo. So they had two fast guys, two Ferraris on one side. So they had Ronaldo going down the left and Gareth Bale going down the right, and Benzema in the middle as a passer and a connecting piece that can also score. A false nine, basically. And I think Bellingham can fit into that play style and position very well because he is such a great passer. And then keep Mbappe on the left side or the right side, flip him if you want. But once you got Vini and Mbappe going forward, you kind of got to pick your poison. Both are fast, both are skillful, both can score at will. Mbappe's considered the number one player in the world. Some people consider Vini the number one player in the world. Bellingham, Haaland, so they're all three of them on the team are in the conversation for best player in the world. And just shout out to Real Madrid, man. Another one. I love it. A la Madrid. A la Madrid, number 15. Yes, sir. So, on to Indy. It was in Detroit, at the streets of Detroit. And, you might have thought maybe Alex Palou. You might have thought Colton Herta, who was on pole. Maybe one of the Penske boys. But no. 6-time champion, top 3 in wins. Scott Dixon does it again, the Kiwi. It was a 100-lap race. Right off the bat, we had cautions. I'm talking about almost every restart. People are getting spun in turn 3. Just constant. I mean, not turn 3. Technically, turn 3 because the starting line is on the straightaway after turn 1. But, for our purposes here, turn 1, and people just getting turned. Will Power got turned. Pato Award got stuck behind him. It's very close quarters, a street course, corners barriers everywhere. You had people losing laps, what to do with tires. And this man, after like the 6th caution, there were maybe around 40, 35 laps left. Scott Dixon found himself first. A caution came out. People got tires. People got fuel. He said, "No, I'm taking the track position. I'm in the front. I've done this before." Yes, he has done this before. Saved fuel and still kept up the pace of the race to win. And that's exactly what he did. He took the green flag. With 35 laps to go, there was another caution. He stayed in the front, didn't pit again. He had Ericsson and Kirkwood kind of breathing down his neck, but ultimately, I mean, Ericsson and Kirkwood were coming, especially the last lap, but just too much. He won by like 0.6 of a second, so not a lot, but he did enough to win. Shout out Scott Dixon. Another masterful performance by the Iceman. And, I believe he's like less than 5 wins away from AJ Foyt to be the winningest driver in the history of IndyCar. That's insane. With 6 championships, and he's leading the points to try to get his 7th. Absolutely incredible. They go to Laguna Seca next, I believe, to the corkscrew. So does NASCAR. They go to Sonoma, the road course as well. So that'll be fun. And then we got Canadian Grand Prix this upcoming weekend with Formula One, which at the Jacques Villeneuve circuit, the circuit Jacques Villeneuve in Canada. And I think we might have competition this week. Who knows? Who knows? We might. So in NASCAR, Austin Cindric wins after Ryan Blaney runs out of gas, taking the white flag. This man takes the white flag and immediately gets past because he runs out of gas. Cindric was up there all day. The Fords dominated. There was the Toyota surge in like the middle of the race. There was some Hendrick cars up there in the front. Kyle Larson before he crashed into Kyle Busch, even though he still had a good finish. Busch was out of the race, unfortunately. After that crash, he broke the rear suspension. Kyle Larson was trying to pass him inside. They were kind of being and banging on each other during the straightaway. Going to turn one, Kyle goes in too deep, loses traction to the back of the car, hits Kyle Busch on his outside, turns him. He hits the wall, breaks the suspension. Day over for Kyle. I honestly thought that Ryan Blaney would win this race. At first, actually, it was a Toyota. It was Christopher Bell that was supposed to win, but he had a problem. He lost like 1 or 2 cylinders, so basically blew up the motor with like 13 laps left, 15 laps left, like not a lot. And then Ryan Blaney, after a caution, took the restart. Basically took the restart, got first. His teammate was catching him. Austin was catching him, but like not at an alarming rate that you would think like with 2 laps left that he would lose the race. But then traffic in the last 2 laps before he ran out of gas, traffic had like really slowed him up, and Cindric was really right behind him, and he runs out of gas, taking the white flag. Didn't know that he was going to run out of gas. They usually have a light to tell him when the reserve tank it goes on. I guess he didn't see it. I guess it didn't pop up, but he ran out of gas last lap. His teammate, though, won the race. Second race he ever wins. He won the Daytona 500 earlier this year. Yeah, I mean, pretty exciting race. A lot of passing. So it was a pretty good track weekend at Gateway. A lot of passing, different conditions. Nobody blew any brake rotors, which is what was happening in these past years at that racetrack. Nobody, was going into turn 1 or turn 3 and absolutely exploding their brake rotor into a fireball of metal and hitting the wall. Nobody did that. There was only one cut down tire that looked like an explosion of a brake rotor, but it was too early in the race for that to happen. I believe that was Josh Berry in the 4 car. The Fords dominated. They won. They've been kind of heading that direction the last few races. Do I expect it to keep going? Yeah, because if they found something in the engines to be as competitive as Chevy and Toyota especially, I think that we can have a very, very exciting championship going the rest of the way. And a Ford won last year in Ryan Blaney. He's our defending series champion. So, Fords are doing pretty good. They're bouncing back. Go to Sonoma next week, road course. I expect SVG, who won the Xfinity race, his first Xfinity race, and to celebrate, first of all, his car looked like shit. I mean, at the end of the race, he had an indented. Both of his like headlights. They're not really headlights, but like part of the carbon fiber body or like metal, because this is Xfinity. They're both indented inside. He'd been banging all race, spun out, got back, and this man is such a good road course racer. it goes without saying he's a 3-time champion in Australia in the supercars and super and V8 supercars. So I mean I expected for him to be good, especially in Xfinity when they went to road courses. But like to come back from 4th, 3rd, 6th and just pass people, just have a car that's beaten and battered and just keep passing. It was amazing to see. And once he got the lead, he drove away. What was exciting about this race, though, it's not just that his first win as in Xfinity. It's the way that he celebrated was very unique for a driver here in the U.S. I mean, this man drifted the track in an Xfinity car. So in a stock car, he drifted the track and then did a burnout across the start-finish line, blew out his tires, and then signed a rugby ball and kicked it into the stands. It was pretty fun. Or Australian football. One of the two. It looked like a rugby ball to me. He signed it and kicked it. He said, yeah, I might do that for that might be my thing. Well, if he wins next week, that would be pretty dope to try to burn out Sonoma Infineon. That'd be crazy because of all the elevation changes at that track. But overall, it was a great racing weekend in IMSA. Acura, Andretti, and Wayne Taylor Racing won after a year and after over 600 days of not winning. They passed Penske, the Porsches. So that was surprising to see an Acura, finally get up off the mat. But other than that, we move on to NFL. Why NFL? Because finally it has happened. And the number was exactly what I thought it was. If you go back into podcast, I've been saying Justin Jefferson, he's going to ask around $35 million a year, reset the bank for wide receivers, reset the book, and the market. And I said around, I remember I said around 32 to 35 was, what probably he was looking for. And that's exactly what he got. He got 4 years. 4 years, $140 million, with $110 million guaranteed. Makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Yeah, I mean everything that you thought would happen. He has 88 due at signing, $88 million. Listen, when they didn't re-sign Kirk, you knew that this is what was coming down the line. It surprising that it took this long. I thought the number was pretty set at $35 million per. I guess they were, they always bicker about the guaranteed, but out of $140 million deal, you get $110 million guaranteed plus 88 at signing. You can't go wrong with that. Another big news, Darren Waller. Yes, that Darren Waller, all-pro tight end. It's expected to retire from the NFL. The Giants are expecting tight end Darren Waller to retire from the NFL. He is expected to make a decision before next week. That would be a huge loss for the Giants, considering that they just drafted Malik Neighbors, and that would have been a nice combination to put Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Sterling Shepard, Darren Waller, Bellinger, and Malik Neighbors. That would have been nice to put together, but it looks like at 29, if not 30, he just divorced himself, I believe, from Kelsey Plum, the basketball player, Kelsey Plum. So, a lot of things going on in his life. He is still a physical freak. I don't understand why he would retire. I don't know if he's tired of the injuries or tired of the frustration. But if I had still the athletic ability and the speed that he had, unless it's something head injury related, I would push through and keep making my millions. Because once you leave the NFL, that's it. He probably could still come back if he has a change of heart, but that is crazy for the Giants and just something that they didn't want to hear. So with Justin Jefferson getting these $35 million a year, there's one more question. Who's going to get the bigger payday? Is it him or Jamar Chase? Personally, I think that the number will stay at $35 million. I think Jamar Chase will come in at 33, 34, right under him, second highest paid receiver, and then of course Tyreek at $30 million. Do I agree with the strategy of putting basically all your financial eggs into a dependent position on the quarterback, that being wide receiver? Yes, because this is the best wide receiver in the NFL and one of the best wide receivers in NFL history throughout his first 3-4 years in the league. He leads in yards, touchdowns, and catches for anybody in their career through year 4. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. If you weren't going to get Kirk, you had to re-sign JJ. If not, he was going to get a giant pay just like this first from another team. And you would probably face them if they were in the NFC and face them in the Super Bowl if you got to the Super Bowl in the AFC. So I think this was a smart move by the Vikings, having JJ McCarthy, having the flexibility at quarterback after, not re-signing Kirk. You still have Jordan Addison on a rookie deal. You have TJ Hawkinson signed to 2026. All 3 of them are signed till 2026. So, you have a little window here. I expect you guys to take advantage of it, but we'll see what JJ McCarthy is. All right, let's move on to real basketball. Now, let me tell you why, to me, the biggest matchup in this series will be, to me, and this is just to me, and the reason why is because they're both very big X factors and both can swing a series based on a good or bad game on either side of the floor. And that being the matchup versus Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford versus Derek Lively and PJ Washington. And Daniel Gafford. Now, there's 2 ways for you to look at this. You could say, KP coming back. Nobody's seen him play. He's going to add a different dimension to the offense. He's going to spread them out. He's going to stretch them out. The lane's going to be open for Tatum and Brown to do the drive and kick. Derek White and Drew Holiday can also drive. So I think it'll be a very positive thing. Al Horford goes back to the bench. He gets into the second unit, brings a level of stability to that unit. Okay. So this is the thing. When you think about stretching the floor with a big, what I'm worried about is what if for certain stretches, what if the Mavs play a double big lineup? And the reason I say that is because I rather run a double big lineup with Gafford and Lively, but then you get killed from 3, right? So what if you go small? Well, then you are susceptible to the rebounding by KP. Yeah, but KP's shooting from the 3. Porzingis is out there by the 3-point line, hovering. Now, will he get in the block? He can't get in the block. He could get down there. But if he gets moved off his spot by Gafford or Lively can cover out there. If he's neutralized in any capacity, the Mavs win the series. Okay? Now, I'm picking the Mavs to win in 6. I am resigning myself to the fact that they can win in 5. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit. But I'm going to pick the Mavs in 6. I'm going to tell you why Tatum and Brown cannot outduel Luka and Kyrie. Brown is the more aggressive of the two players, but is the less talented of all four. Okay, if you're looking about who are the best players in this series, it's Luka, Tatum, Kyrie, Brown, and right now, based on how they're playing, especially in crunch time, one might say Luka, Kyrie, Tatum, and Brown. So there's a dichotomy and not a confusion, but there is a conflict of approach from the Celtics 2 stars compared to that of the Dallas 2 stars, where are in sync in the approach that they are implementing in the game offensively. Tatum is a guy who I believe either hasn't learned or will never learn that he's 6'9" and can go to the basket at any time. Brown, on the other hand, is a guy who is aggressive enough to go to the rim every time whenever you need a bucket, but sometimes dribbles the ball too much, gets into trouble, causes turnovers. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because this series will come down to crunch time. And there is no better backcourt or two players duo together better in the last 5 minutes of the game, with the game within 5, than Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Now you might tell me, oh, but the Boston defense. Listen, they just fried the Minnesota defense. Now, I will give you that the Boston defense is the second best defense in the league, and has been playing really well as of late. But I don't want to hear that when Nembhard put 30 on you back-to-back games. If you're allowing Andrew Nembhard, a second-year player with no Tyrese Halliburton, to score 30 on you in a Game 3 and Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, don't tell me that you're going to cover Luka and Kyrie. It ain't going to happen. I look at Kyrie this series to not be on the ball as much because of the length of Tatum and Brown, even Drew or Derek White. It's going to be a lot of matchup hunting by the Celtics. They're going to try to hunt Luka. They're going to try to hunt Kyrie on switches. But they've been putting in effort at the defensive end, so it's not like going to be a cakewalk. And, Luka is still 6'8" and 250. Now, Kyrie's quicker. You can move him off the spot, obviously, because he's smaller. He's 6'2". But he's a dog, like, on defense. He will go after it, especially in the finals. He's been doing it all playoffs, and in the finals, I don't expect anything different. So, as Celtics fans, you guys, the guys that swear by this Celtics team and have sworn by them for the last 6 years that you've gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals in the last 8 years, and to the finals in 2022. So you lost to a 34-year-old Steph Curry in 2022. He walked you down after you guys were up 2-1 at home, dropped 43 on you with 8 threes. What makes you think that a 25-year-old Luka that has already been a EuroLeague MVP at 17, has already won the EuroLeague championship with Real Madrid, is one of the best scorers we've ever seen, one of the best passers we've ever seen, and one of the best competitors we've ever seen. He has that I want to whoop your ass type of energy, that Kobe and Mike used to have. How in the world with a passive aggressive superstar like Jason Tatum, do you think that he's going to meet the moment against that monster on the other side? And not to mention that he can drop 30. His backcourt mate, just like your backcourt mate, Tatum, can drop 30, 40, 50. Oh, but Kyrie's too small and everything. What happened with Jaden McDaniels? What happened with Ant? Cooked him. Why did he cook him? One, he's too quick. Second, he will play off the ball. Kyrie will run off of screens this series a lot more than you saw him in the Minnesota series, where he could just tire out Ant, and that was his prerogative. I think he's going to run off screens. He's going to be in duck-ins, but they're going to live and die by the best play in basketball right now, which is a Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving pick and roll. Oh, but Boston could switch everything. You want to switch everything? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care who's on Luka. And it could be all five of them. You could have Jaylen Brown, then Jason Tatum, Derek White, Drew Holiday, even KP, even Al Horford. He's cooking all of them. All of them. There is no stopping Luka. He will drop his 30. Now, the key for the Celtics is, okay, Luka drops 30, 35, but how many assists? It's the same thing with Jokic. Okay, he drops 40, but how many assists? If Luka averages 10 assists this series, Celtics are cooked. Because that means that the role players are playing their roles efficiently. If we have a PJ Washington 25-plus game, Celtics are losing the series. If we have a Tim Hardaway Jr. out of nowhere 15-plus game, Celtics are losing the series. If we have Daniel Gafford or Blake or Derek Lively have a crazy alley-oop game like they had in Game 4, where they had in Game 3 of the Minnesota series, where they had 28 from lobs, Celtics are losing the series. Now let's go in the opposite side and look at the Celtics. What has to happen for the Celtics to have the best chance to win this series, even though they're favored? Tatum has to average 30, and Brown has to average at least 28, and KP, if he's gonna play, has to average 20. Now, not in that order. Why? Because if Jason Tatum is averaging 30, he just came off of averaging 30 and 10 in the Eastern Conference Finals. My thing is, if he's averaging 30, I promise you Luka will average 33, 34, 35. That's what he's been doing. I don't believe that the Celtics are disciplined enough on defense to not double Kyrie or Luka. There is a problem when you double a guy that's 6'8" and can see the floor like Luka does. He will Jokic you. He will Magic Johnson you. He will LeBron you. What does that mean? He will control. He will have his hands on the strings of the game the whole time. You're going to be playing at his pace. You're not going to be running up and down. You're not going to be chucking threes. You want to chuck three? Let's talk of strategies. What does Joe Mazzulla always want to do with this Celtics team? What they have done the last 2 years under Mazzulla? Chuck threes more than anybody and make threes at a higher clip than anybody. What have they also done? Gone extremely cold at bad times. Okay, it's happened in these playoffs. Happened against Miami. It happened against Cleveland. It happened against Indiana. They just didn't lose. Now, let's put that into perspective. Miami, 2 of their top scorers, not there. Cleveland, their top scorer, not there for 2 games. And then Indiana, their top scorer and their leader, their point guard, not there for 3 games, essentially. 2.5. Now, you come off of those bums, because you got to call them bums, because compared to Luka, that's a different animal. Now, I want to know what you guys think when it gets like this in the second quarter. You guys are missing threes. The Dallas Mavericks are in transition with Luka at the point or Kyrie. You think they're missing a lot of shots? Because I don't think so. I think Luka's going to go to the line. I think Kyrie's going to go to the hole. And if you start giving up transition threes to those two, you're in for a long night. What I'm saying is, let's say Boston has a 5-point lead, 7 minutes into the third quarter, and they go cold. For 3 minutes, they go cold from three. They chuck up 9 threes and they go cold. They go 1 for 9 or something like that. Now, juxtapose that to every single miss is caught in transition. You know, speaking of Gafford and Derek Lively are going to dominate the boards in this series. I just feel that way. Boston doesn't crash the glass as hard as those two do. And Luka crashes the glass as well as any guard. You know, you got Josh Green. He could get mix it up at PJ. He mix it up in there. So the rebounding battle, I expect the Mavs to dominate that. And in these playoffs, whoever wins the rebounding battle has won games and has won series. But back to the point that I was making. Off a transition, you miss a 3, long rebound. Gafford gets it. Luka gets it in transition. You are 3-on-2, 3-on-3. Maybe they slow it down in transition. Luka will find the best shot, and you will have to literally hope he misses. Or one of his teammates, because they will get a good shot. It is not a matter of if they get a good shot. They will get a good shot. Okay? They will get a good shot. They will match up Hunt. Listen, just like Jimmy did to Drew Holiday last year in the first round, Luka will hunt the weakest defender out of that great defender lineup. Whether he feels like he could get KP on skates. Even if he's 7'3", doesn't matter. If he could get him on skates, he gets him off balance, he's going to be open. If he feels that he could get Drew because he can move him with his weight. Same thing with Derek White. The two guys that I think he won't pick on and they will try to stick him with the most is Tatum and Brown. Now, if they stick Tatum on him, Tatum better give his all on the defensive end, because if he slacks off even a little bit on the defensive end, a little bit, you're getting murdered. You got to understand that this is a guy that could go for 20 and a quarter, 50, 60 in a game, 10 to 15, 20 assists, 15 rebounds, and dominate the game. This is no Steph Curry. You're not going to get, Steph was run off of screens, cook you at the top of the key, get inside once you feel like the 3-point is too much of a threat. Luka is a methodical, pick you apart. Let me get my teammates involved because I can score whenever I want. Notice how I'm just talking about Luka. Guess what? Those same possessions in the third quarter, heading to the fourth, Kyrie's in with Luka off a miss of 3. Off a step back Jason Tatum 3 with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. The game is a 3-point game. Let's say the last 3 minutes. Listen, closing quarters and closing halves is how you win games. Especially if you control the rebounding. Since I think Dallas will edge out the Boston in rebounding, even with KP. I just feel like against Al Horford, Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford will eat him alive. And even against KP, Daniel Gafford is bigger than KP body-wise, and so is Derek Lively. And they're both 7-footers. It's only 3 inches. And he's not jumping 40. KP isn't. Another thing. How are you going to deal with the on and off? And what I mean about the on and off is how are you going to deal when Luka goes off. Kyrie's kind of tame, but passing the ball, dishing out. What are you going to do when it switches? What are you going to do when Kyrie starts taking over? That's a different monster. Kyrie's the type of guy, you put anybody on him, he has the liability to, one, get by him, two, get to the rim, most likely going to make it with the craziest layout package in NBA history, or cook you up so bad, shoot the three in your face, left-handed floaters, getting into the lane, little pop shots here from 15, 10 feet, 12 feet, those get in rhythm jumpers that he's always good at. You're talking about a guy that goes 50, 40, 90 and can also hit you for 50 efficiently. So that's my question to Boston. My question to the Mavs. What exactly do you want to do with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? What do you want to do? If I'm Jason Kidd, the first thing I want to do, I want to bait Tatum into shooting 30 jumpers a game. I don't want Tatum in the paint. I want to make it in his mind that he can win by shooting jumpers. Same thing Golden State did. Now, Jason Tatum is older, wiser. Maybe he doesn't bite on it. But that would be my first line of strategy against Jason Tatum. Force him, or not even force, you can force him, but get him in a false sense of security with turnaround 15-footers, turnaround step back 18-footers, turnaround threes, step back threes at the wing. I want him shooting from as far as possible and being in love with that, shooting 9 threes, going 3 for 9. Going 3 for 10, going 1 for 6. With Brown, it sounds cliche because we've been hearing about it since 2022. Force him to the left side. Do not let him get to the right side and get 2 feet in the paint. He's gonna finish. He has a 40-inch vert. He can lay up with the best of them. He's 6'8", 6'9", big body. He's gonna get fouled. He's gonna go to the line. He's a good free throw shooter. So you're asking me, but who do you put on Tatum? I would put PJ on Tatum, PJ Washington. And then I put Luka on Jaylen Brown. It's a little bit more power matchup with Jaylen Brown and Luka, but I don't have to deal with the finesse of Jaylen Brown, especially trying to get Luka into foul trouble. Whoever's guarding Luka will be in foul trouble. Now, this is a big picture thing that we'll talk Thursday, the whistle. I expect it to be right down the middle. And the reason why is Jason Tatum is just as big of a star as Luka and vice versa. Jaylen Brown and Kyrie Irving. Kyrie doesn't get a lot of calls, but he will get calls. And Jaylen Brown, is a call monster. He gets a lot of calls. So I think because of the popularity of both teams, and it's crazy how we have to talk about officiating. That's absolutely insane that we have to talk about it like that, but that's how it actually is. So, when you watch the game, it really seems that way underneath it all. So I expect both teams to get calls. I expect Luka to get the most. The reason I say that is because Luka is not a foul baiter, but he's just really good at getting you off balance. He's really good at the pump fake. He's really good at the jab. He'll do multiple moves on you just like Jokic just to get you off balance. Boom, contact. And he's one of the best guys I've ever seen at N1's crazy shots, just like Kyrie. So Josh, but what if they go off for 70 and the other guys don't do nothing? All right. Now you have to tell me that Derek White, Drew Holiday, KP, Pritchard, Hauser, Horford are going to outduel PJ Washington, Josh Green, Jaden Hardy, Gafford, Lively, and Tim Hardaway. And I just don't see them, especially if PJ Washington plays early, like he was doing early in the OKC series and early in the early in the, how do I say this? Early in the Timberwolves series. But at the same time, Jaden Hardy was showing some stuff late in the Timberwolves series. I don't know if Tim Hardaway is going to play a lot. He should, because I think he's has good length on defense. Will Dwight Powell make an appearance maybe to try to be more as athletic as, as KP maybe, or stick him on Al Horford? I think Al Horford's going to be in a really big dilemma this series, especially if Porzingis gets hurt. If Porzingis gets hurt, the Boston Celtics will lose this series because they have to play Al Horford. Al Horford is not stopping no Luka. Al Horford is not stopping no Kyrie. They will pick on him like they did Rudy Gobert, like they did Cat, and they will cook them boys alive. Maxi Kleber is back for Dallas. A big that can stretch out the floor, bring KP out to the three-point line. What does that do? Open the lane and the paint for Luka and Kyrie to attack. Derrick Jones Jr. will be huge this series. I think that he's going to guard Tatum first. He's not as stalky as Tatum, but he's long and he can bother him, his dribble. That means that Luka will probably go on Brown, Kyrie on Drew, PJ on KP. Oh, actually, no. Gafford or Lively on KP, and then PJ on Derek White. That is switchable to an extent. Do I want Luka on Tatum? No, absolutely not. Do I want Kyrie on Tatum? If he holds his own. He did his own against Ant. Tatum's a little bit longer, a little bit taller, a little bit more developed as a player. So maybe not. But if, Kyrie can get cookies, especially against Jaylen Brown because of his left hand, by all means. Defense is going to win this series regardless of how spectacular Luka, Kyrie, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown are. This is going to come down to the bigs. It's going to come down to Daniel Gafford, to Derek Lively, to KP, and Al Horford. I think that's what it's going to come down to. There's a possibility to get a big Derek White game. But he hasn't been doing well the last few games. There's a possibility to get a big Drew Holiday game. And if that happens, then Boston can definitely, cause some disruption. But overall, if you're asking me matchup-wise, I think the Mavs have a better matchup 1, 2, and 5 against 5 as in like the center position than Boston has the other way. The biggest thing is going to be runs in this series. Why? Because runs are going to come from Boston from threes. And then Mavericks don't go on runs. Mavericks just run offense and they make or miss. Minnesota stopped them for a few times and everything, but they were just missing shots. You got to understand that when it gets like this, that's the Mavs' normal offense. If it's not like this, that means they're just missing shots. Kyrie's missing shots. Luka's missing shots. PJ, they're just missing shots. But I expect the mean to go back to the mean, and it goes back to like that. On the Boston side, if they're not scoring, they're not just missing shots. It's just they're going stagnant. And that's what happens the last 5 minutes of the game for these two teams. One team can play hero ball. One team can go 1-2 because Luka's such a great passer. And both are two of the clutchest players in the NBA right now. And Kyrie is one of the clutchest players in NBA history. When I think about the clutch gene, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown really don't pop up. I mean, Jaylen Brown pops up more than Jason Tatum. You get what I'm saying? In my eyes. And their offense gets so stagnant with 5 minutes left, especially in a close game. It's all your turn, my turn. There's not flow to it. That you can bait them into just taking long threes, a step back, off the dribble, and just kind of residing the fact that you're just like, I'm waiting for good offense, and you're not going to find it. On the other side, you will find good offense, and a lot of it. Whether that's Luka going nuts if he's hot, Kyrie going nuts if he's hot, or them just getting to the rim and kicking out. Boston's going to try to stay on the shooters. They're going to try to stay on role players. If they do, I expect Luka and Kyrie to average 30 and 25 plus respectively. There is no way that you are single coveraging Luka, Doncic, and Kyrie Irving. I don't care who you have on your team. You're not doing it. I expect Kyrie to try to tire one of the two J's. Whoever's on him, I expect him to run them off the floor and try to, just like they did Ant. Now, these two guys are more developed. They've been there before, know what the finals are like. But Kyrie's a champion. The other two aren't. Jason Kidd has by far the coaching edge. By far. He's a Hall of Fame player, a championship, a champion with the Mavericks when he played with Dirk in 2011 when he beat the Heat. And he's just a better coach. He makes more adjustments. He has the better player. He has the two better closers. And I just think that over the course of a 7-game series, which I think it'll go 6, and I believe it can go even 5. Boston can lose this series in 5 if they don't come correct game 1. Because if they play around at home like they've been doing the last few years in the playoffs, the problem is Luka is going to try to stomp on your neck. He did it to Minnesota. He tried to sweep them. He got them in 5 because they gave him both of them at home. You have home court advantage. You got to come game 1 prepared for an onslaught. Luka and Kyrie are not going to wait around. If you allow them to get hot, if you allow them to get in the rhythm, feel comfortable against the defense, you will get cooked game 1. You might get shot out of your building. And now what you going to do? Going into game 2, it's a desperation because you don't want to go to Dallas 2-0. Okay? So that's why I feel like it could go only 5. I don't think Boston's winning in Dallas. I just don't see that. I don't. It's not something that I see happening. Dallas has been way too good at home. Okay? Now, especially if they go in with a 1-1, if it's 1-1 going to Dallas, I expect Dallas to go 3-4, 3-1, go back to Boston and finishing it in Boston. Okay? So there's a propensity for it to go 5. And the reason I say that is because if you allow him to get game 1, if you allow Luka to gain the confidence of like, I can win in Boston. Remember, he loves the road atmosphere. He loves that adversity. He loves talking to the crowd. He feeds off of that. If he goes for 40, 10, and 5 on elite efficiency in game 1 and wins by 10, you guys are not winning this series. And you will hear it in the media. They're not. There is no chance if you give him game 1. Because then he'll just feel like, this is just like all the other series. These guys ain't nothing. And what you have to watch out for is not just Luka, because Luka could win the game, but Kyrie could chill and then come back the next game and destroy you. Just like he did in the Minnesota series when Kyrie got game 1, and then Luka came game 2, and then they combined in game 3 and 5. The Dallas Mavericks can win even if they have a bad shooting night. Why? Because their defense is good enough to stop Boston, and Boston can go cold. Boston can lose even if they have a perfect game. If they have a perfect game, let's say they have 40% from 3. Good rebounding, great defense. Guess what? If it's within 10 heading into the fourth quarter, they might lose. You Boston Celtics fans better hope you blow them out in the first 3 quarters. Because if you get to the fourth quarter against Luka and Kyrie and you're only up 10, you are most likely losing that game. I'm sorry. Whether they're 5 up or they're 5 down, in the last 5 minutes, you will lose those minutes. You don't got it in you. So I think Mavs in 6. On Thursday, on the Thursday pod that you guys get, I will break down the broader things about the series, as in like legacy and, you know, do I see any adjustments coming after game 1? Game 1 is Thursday, so you guys are going to get the episode before game 1 in the morning. But yeah, I mean, Mavs in 6. Now, to baseball. Okay? To baseball. Little quick rundown here. There has been Blake Snell is probably going on the IL. With nothing has been said yet, but his manager said, hey, I do not think this is a 15-day DL injury. So John Means for the Orioles, done for the year. I believe Tyler Wells for the Orioles, done for the year. Okay. Let's talk about what I'm seeing from teams. The Yankees, I believe, are going to keep this up the rest of the year, have a, you know, if not 100-win season, very darn close. They're 42-19. But the American League East will be a battle till the end. I mean, Baltimore's only 3 games behind, and that's it. It is Baltimore. It is only the Orioles. And the reason the Orioles are in line with them, one, they went to the playoffs last year. Were the best team in the American League last year. And Gunnar Henderson's having an absolute MVP season. Adley Rutschman's playing like a top catcher in the league. Their defense is playing great. And when you have Grayson Allen, Corbin Burns, Kramer, you know, not John Means and Tyler Wells no more, and Cole Irving pitching where they're pitching, you're not going to lose many games. They're 37-20. They're only 3 games back of the Yankees. Boston's done. Boston's done. Tampa Bay's done. Toronto's done. This whole division after the Baltimore Orioles is done. 11.5 games back of first place is Boston. Tampa Bay, 12.5. Toronto, 12.5. So between them, it's close. But Baltimore's the one holding clearly that wild card spot. Going on to the Central, I do expect Cleveland to keep doing this, to keep playing well. Rosario's playing well. Jimenez is playing well. I mean, J-Rem is playing absolutely incredible. The Naylor boys are starting to pick it up. Freeman, Rocchio, everybody's playing well. Brennan, Bybee's pitching well. Williams is pitching well. McKenzie started to right the ship a little bit. So everybody for the Guardians is playing well. Kansas City's 4 games back with Cole Reagans, with Seth Lugo, with Pax Quintino, with Bobby Witt having an MVP type season, with Salvador Perez leading them in RBIs and home runs. 4 games. Minnesota 6 games. Detroit 10 games, even with Tarek Skubal. And the White Sox are done, 24.5. Garrett Crochet, however, the pitcher that I've been saying for the last 2 months, is leading the league in all of majors in strikeouts with 93. Too bad that he plays for the White Sox. I expect him to be moved. And Garrett Crochet just looks like a guy that the Yankees would kind of pick up to probably put into the Nestor role. I could definitely see KC adding him to that rotation. Detroit. I don't think Seattle needs anything. Texas, like I said, with the injuries. Houston, with the injuries that they have. The Angels might make a run at them, but I mean, for what? It's not gonna help them. Philly, I don't think that they need, even though Ranger Suarez got hit with a ball, so we'll see how he is. Atlanta with no Strider, maybe. Washington to add him with Gore and Irving, maybe. Milwaukee to put right behind fastball Freddie and Gasser, Ray, that lineup. Chicago to put with Justin Steele and Shota and Assad. Cincinnati. The Dodgers, nah, because I think Kershaw's coming back. They got Walker Buehler back. San Diego, maybe. San Francisco, not that they lost Snell. Possibly. And Arizona, because Gallen's hurt. Kelly, I think that it would be a good move for him. So I think Garrett Crochet is going to be a big piece, hopefully, in free agency. Not in free agency, but this trade deadline, hopefully. Seattle is up 4 games on the defending World Series champion Texas, the Rangers. Houston's 7.5 games back. Oakland's 10 games back, and the Angels are 12 games back. Okay? In the National League, the Phillies have the best record. And the Yankees and Phillies are trading back the best record in the majors by day. So they have a 6.5 lead on the Atlanta Braves, a 13-game lead on the Nationals, 16.5 game lead on the Mets, who are horrible, and Miami's 20 games back. We're gonna sell something. The Mets are gonna sell in the trade deadline, so I expect a lot of movement, especially with our pitching, since we can't win. Milwaukee 7 games up on St. Louis, 7.5 games up on the Cubs, 9 games up on Pittsburgh. They still have to wake up offensively. They have good pitching, but they have to wake up offensively. And then Cincinnati's 10 games back. A disappointment this season. I thought that they would be better, especially with Ellie De La Cruz, but he is striking out so much. Every single highlight, 2-3 strikeouts, 2-3 strikeouts, 2-3. Like, this man is not even getting on base. Looking bad out. He's just swinging at bad sliders, just bad, like curveballs out of the zone. Like, he's just biting on everything. And he has to bring that down. The Dodgers are 6.5 games up on the Padres, 8.5 games up on the Giants, 10 games up on Arizona, and 15.5 games up on Colorado. As for the wild card, I know it's early, but as for the wild card, you got Baltimore, KC, and Minnesota. So I told you, Boston, Texas right now is out. Toronto, Houston's out. So very big implications about the wild card. In the National League, it's Atlanta, San Diego, and St. Louis. Cubs are out. Giants are out. Arizona's out. So that's how it's looking right now. So far. Jordan Alvarez had a 2-home run game. Hopefully he starts picking it up. Breggy had a good series. He had like 2 bombs. Hopefully they start picking it up for the Astros. I think Paul Skeens is pitching in the next few days. So is Jared Jones. Shota Yamamoto had a good outing this past weekend. Charlie Morton had a good outing. Nola. Everybody, Luis Castillo, everybody's having good outings. But it's all about, look at these. The thing is the difference in games. We're this much into the season. You got the closest races in the AL East between the 1 and 2 team. In every other division, besides the 4 games Cleveland is up on Kansas City, you got 6.5 for the Phillies, 7 over St. Louis for Milwaukee, and 6.5 for the Dodgers. I mean, it's really not that close. And once you get to the third teams, you got 11.5 Boston. They're done. Minnesota 6. They're still in it. Houston 7.5. Still in it. Washington's 13, done. Chicago's 7.5, and then San Francisco's 8.5, borderline. You know, so it's definitely gonna be tough for the other teams to keep their wits about them when they feel like they're not even close to a wild card. You know, and that's what happens when there's really, really good teams at the top, and you know you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, losing to one day you lose to an Oakland, and another day you lose to Chicago, you lose to Pitt, you lose to Pittsburgh, you lose to Arizona. You're never gonna catch up. And finally, let's talk about those Florida Panthers, baby. We're heading to our second Stanley Cup in a row. We lost last year. First game is Saturday against the Oilers. And all I'm going to say about this series is I expect us to win off of grit and toughness, but I'm still very much aware that we are facing McJesus and Connor McDavid, McJesus, the best player in the world. I expect it to be a dogfight. I think the Panthers get it in 6. And we claim our first championship in NHL history. We got close last year. We got close in 94. Edmonton is going to be looking for first championship in a while as well. So we got basically the toughest team in the league versus the best player in the world. And that's what we got for the Stanley Cup. I got Panthers in 6. I am going to watch the whole series because we are in the finals. I'm going to watch them. I didn't do it last year, but I'm going to do it this year to try to give you that content. But other than that, I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment, follow me on all my socials in the description, and I leave you all with the outro.